Humanity's journey through the stars had never been smooth. Born on a fragile blue planet in the backwaters of the galaxy, humans faced extinction countless times, not just by their own hands but through cosmic events and alien incursions. Yet, time and again, they proved their resilience. The galaxy learned to respect and fear the species that thrived where others faltered. Their ingenuity had no limits. What they couldn't outgun, they outthought. What they couldn't outrun, they outlasted. It was this adaptability that led to the construction of humanity's crowning achievement, the indestructible fortress. Perched on a barren world at the heart of their empire, it stood as an impenetrable testament to human engineering. Massive energy shields wrapped the structure in a shimmering veil, capable of withstanding direct hits from weapons designed to obliterate planets. Its surface was composed of self-repairing alloys, programmed to reconstruct themselves faster than any damage could spread. Automated turrets, bristling with both kinetic and energy-based weapons, lined every inch of the outer perimeter. Beneath the surface, labyrinthine tunnels housed countless generations of soldiers, engineers, and strategists. The fortress was more than a fortress, it was a city, a bastion, and a war machine all in one. It didn't merely defend humanity's core worlds, it was the very reason they could sleep at night. No invader had ever breached its walls, no weapon had ever brought its defenses down. It was more than indestructible. To most of humanity, it was eternal. But to those watching from the fringes of the galactic scene, it was something else entirely, arrogance cast in metal and stone. Other species scoffed at humanity's pride in their so-called unbreakable stronghold. A relic, they sneered, meant to guard an empire too foolish to know its days are numbered. Yet those voices remained whispers, for no one dared challenge the fortress. Even the most advanced warlike civilizations knew that brute force was futile against it. The fortress had become a symbol, not just for humanity but for the entire galaxy, a reminder that humans, the underdogs of the cosmos, had risen to dominate the stars. Of course, peace bred complacency. Years passed without a single major threat. Skirmishes came and went, but none posed a real challenge. The fortress became more myth than reality, a story to scare fledgling cadets and bolster the morale of human colonies. But symbols, no matter how mighty, inevitably invite challengers. And when humanity least expected it, the galaxy delivered. An ancient threat, one far older and more advanced than humanity, emerged from the abyss beyond mapped space. They didn't come with warnings or demands. They came with one purpose: annihilation. As their shadow crept across the stars, world after world fell. Entire fleets were erased from existence in moments. The fortress, once thought invincible, became humanity's last hope. Its commanders, long untested, scrambled to prepare for the onslaught. Humanity had built their indestructible fortress to look eternal. Soon, they'd discover whether it was built to survive the fire of gods. The sky above humanity's fortress darkened as the first wave of alien ships broke through the system's outer defenses. These were not the usual foes humanity had faced before: pirates, rogue civilizations, or even the technologically advanced Terrakin consortium. This enemy moved like shadows, sleek and silent, with weapons that defied known physics. Their arrival sent shockwaves through humanity's core worlds. 4 years, warnings had echoed through the galactic networks about an ancient race lost to time, one that had slumbered in the depths of dark space. Now, they had awakened, bringing devastation with them. Their fleet was vast, stretching as far as human senses could reach, each ship brimming with destructive potential. Planets that had stood for centuries were wiped out in seconds, leaving only debris fields in their wake. Human fleets scrambled to hold defensive lines but were obliterated one after another. The invaders wielded energy weapons that bypassed traditional shields, dissolving entire ships like vapor. Human admirals, veterans of countless wars, were left speechless at the sheer scale of the carnage. In the midst of this chaos, all eyes turned to the fortress. Commanders gathered their remaining forces, retreating to the stronghold that had never failed them. It was a beacon of hope in a galaxy descending into madness. If any place could withstand the coming storm, it was this indestructible bastion. Communication channels buzzed with urgent orders. Civilians were evacuated from nearby worlds, and reinforcements poured in from the farthest reaches of human space. Every fleet that still had functioning ships was ordered to form a defensive perimeter around the fortress. Supplies and munitions were stockpiled, and engineers worked tirelessly to enhance already formidable defenses. Yet doubt lingered. This wasn't just another war. This was a fight for survival against a force that seemed to defy comprehension. The fortress had always been their ace, their ultimate fallback. But for the first time, cracks appeared in the confidence of those who commanded it. Strategists pored over data, trying to decipher the invaders' technology. The fortress's advanced sensors struggled to make sense of their weapon systems, which operated on frequencies that shouldn't exist. Conventional human tactics were rendered useless. The enemy's fleet moved with eerie precision, as if guided by a single, malevolent mind. Despite the odds, humanity did what it always did best: adapt. New strategies were devised on the fly. Experimental weapons were activated, some never tested outside of simulations. Desperate times called for desperate measures. As the alien armada closed in, the fortress braced for the inevitable. The command center buzzed with controlled chaos as officers relayed commands and monitored defense grids. Soldiers, some barely out of training, manned their posts with grim determination. There was no room for fear now, only resolve. The fortress was their last line of defense, their final stand. And while humanity had faced extinction before, this time felt different. The fortress, their indestructible symbol of power, would either prove its worth or crumble under the weight of an enemy beyond imagination. The alien fleet descended upon the fortress like a storm without end. Waves of energy pulsed through space, crashing against the shimmering shields that had protected humanity's greatest stronghold for centuries. Blinding flashes of light filled the void as the fortress's automated defense systems retaliated, unleashing torrents of plasma and kinetic rounds that tore through the invaders' front lines. The initial moments were promising. The shields held firm, absorbing and dispersing the incoming fire. Turrets tracked targets with precision, reducing dozens of enemy ships to scattered fragments. Commanders inside the fortress maintained steely composure, their voices steady as they coordinated defense patterns. For a brief moment, it seemed as though humanity's greatest creation would withstand even this unimaginable assault. But then the invaders revealed their true power. Massive energy lances, glowing with an eerie blue light, lanced through the void. They bypassed conventional shielding technology as though it didn't exist, striking directly against the fortress's outer structure. Sections of the fortress trembled, alloys warping and cracking under the unimaginable force. Alarms blared throughout the command center as engineers scrambled to stabilize critical systems. Self-repair protocols kicked in, patches of nanite-infused armor regenerating almost as fast as they were damaged. But the invaders were relentless, their weapons striking with precision and frequency that pushed the fortress's systems to their breaking point. Every breach was met with fierce resistance, but it became clear that this was a battle of endurance and humanity was losing ground. Human fleet commanders refused to falter. Ships darted between enemy formations, sacrificing themselves to buy the fortress precious time. Experimental energy fields were deployed, momentarily disrupting the invaders' strange weapons. Tactical maneuvers turned the chaos into a deadly dance, human ships striking back wherever they could. Inside the fortress, soldiers and strategists worked without pause. Backup systems were activated as power surges threatened to cripple key defensive grids. Artificial intelligence caused calculated defense algorithms faster than human minds could comprehend. Still, the situation grew more desperate with each passing second. A massive shockwave rocked the fortress as the invaders deployed a gravitational distortion bomb. The fabric of space itself rippled, tearing apart several human ships caught in its radius. The fortress shuddered, its foundation groaning under the immense pressure. For a moment, even the hardened veterans believed it was the end. But the fortress did not fall. As fractured and battered as it was, it stood defiant. The indomitable spirit of humanity coursed through its walls, mirrored by the fierce determination of those who fought within and around it. Engineers rerouted power, sealing damaged sectors and fortifying critical points. Commanders coordinated precision strikes, exploiting any weakness they could find in the enemy's formation. Despite everything, the fortress endured. It was no longer an indestructible monument of perfection but a battered, bruised testament to resilience. Humanity refused to yield, even as the odds tilted further against them. The invincible fortress was beginning to crack, but so too was the resolve of their enemy. The fortress was breaking apart, its once glorious structure riddled with scars. Entire sections were in lockdown, sealed off to prevent further loss of life. Smoke and flickering lights filled its corridors, where soldiers and engineers fought as fiercely against failing systems as they did against the invaders. Yet even in the chaos, a spark of defiance remained. Humanity had never won by sheer strength alone, survival was written in their DNA. In the command center, a desperate plan took shape. Scientists and strategists worked frantically, mapping every vulnerability of the enemy fleet. It was clear that brute force wouldn't win this battle. The fortress, for all its technological marvels, was never meant to face an enemy of this magnitude. But perhaps that was its greatest strength. If the enemy saw the fortress as a target, then humanity would turn it into a trap. Commanders made the call: deliberately disable outer defenses and lure the enemy deeper into the fortress's heart. At first, the invaders hesitated, suspecting deception. But as more defensive turrets fell silent and shield grids flickered out, they surged forward, eager to deliver the final blow. Inside the fortress, energy cores were rerouted, and automated systems reprogrammed. Engineers activated dormant fusion reactors, converting them into makeshift bombs capable of generating localized spatial distortions. The fortress, once a bastion of defense, was now a weapon primed to unleash chaos. As the enemy fleet advanced, they found themselves ensnared in the fortress's labyrinthine structure. What had seemed like a weakness was now a trap of terrifying brilliance. Walls and corridors realigned, creating choke points that funneled ships into kill zones. Massive shockwaves rippled through space as the improvised fusion bombs detonated, tearing apart entire formations. The invaders, for the first time, faltered. Their perfect coordination unraveled as panic set in. What they had believed to be a crumbling relic was now a force of devastation. Human forces, seizing the opportunity, launched a counteroffensive with renewed vigor. Experimental weapons fired in coordinated bursts, exploiting the chaos among the enemy ranks. In the heart of the fortress, where systems flickered and sparks rained down, the final blow was delivered. The fortress's core reactors unleashed a controlled energy wave that rippled outward, disabling every remaining enemy vessel. The invaders, caught in a web of destruction, were annihilated in a blaze of light. Silence followed, broken only by the crackle of damaged systems and the ragged breaths of those who had survived. The fortress, though battered and broken, still stood. What had once been a pristine symbol of indestructibility was now a monument to resilience and ingenuity. Humanity had made their fortress look like paper, fragile and vulnerable. But it was in that fragility that they found their greatest strength. The fortress had not stood because it was indestructible, it had endured because those who defended it refused to give in. As the smoke cleared and the survivors looked out at the wreckage of the enemy fleet, one thing was certain: humanity would not only survive but thrive. Their indomitable will had turned the impossible into victory.